right, we'll get started with our September 16, 2025 Planning Commission. We'll get started with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Katie, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Baker.
Here.
Bilk. Cox.
Here.
Frizone.
Here.
Hutchinson.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Hyatt. Here. Upholzer. And Dix.
Here.
All right. And then a reminder for everyone, make sure your microphones are on, please.
Thank you. Be looking for a motion to excuse absent members.
Motion to excuse absent members. Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Do we have public comment for matters that are listed on the agenda? Okay. Be looking for approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and supported. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next is approval of previous meeting minutes of August 19th, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have no acknowledgement of correspondence. Do we have public comment for matters that are not listed on the agenda? Alrighty. First, for unfinished business, we have sign review number 2 for 14221 Park Street. That is Riverside Townhomes.
Good evening, everybody.
How you doing?
Good. I'm assuming you all have the same I do now. A little bit more,
Yep.
a little bit more detailed. Kind of gives you an idea. At the farthest point on the sign, we're at like 2 foot, and then all the way in, we're at 3 foot. Point, we're at 4 feet across.
And updated measurements of the sign.
Is
Does it have the
everybody happy?
Does it have the total height? Because what I got here does not list, the 5 foot.
Total, no, I guess it does not. Well, peak of the sign down to the bottom of the sign is 4 foot,
So it's probably what, 6 foot tall?
so it's, I would gather 6 foot.
And this was what we discussed last month, and the discussion was more around
The lighthouses.
the lighthouses, the dimensions of the sign. So I think you came back with,
What we're looking for?
yeah, what we were looking for, unless I'm missing something. I know there was some discussion around like the nautical posts or whatever, but that's kind of out of our, a little bit out of our purview since you added the lighthouses. And just so folks know, the sign was in existence from the previous owners. You guys had purchased, adopted the sign that was there, then came
Correct.
to make the amendments to more closely follow the ordinances that we have in place. Any discussion, concerns? We'd be at the point of looking for a motion to approve amended signs and the documentation listed.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good job. Thank you. All right. New business A, we have consideration of concept, a coffee shop drive-through reoccupancy of 13880 Middle Gibraltar Road. I'm gonna turn this over to Jane to go over some of the documentation and feedback from our city planner.
Thank you. So for your consideration this evening is not an action item. We had a inquiry from an interested party about developing that site into a drive-through coffee shop, cafe, and right now the site isn't configured specifically for a drive-through. The zoning ordinance is silent on drive-through requirements, but given that that would require some site modification. I know at one point, I believe that building did have a drive-through feature, so it's not without reason to understand where their perspective is coming from, but I wanted to just put it out to this body in consideration of kind of the concept and view it as a work session. We did ask if the applicant was interested in attending tonight. They did have a conflict, so they're not able to join us, is my understanding. But just a inquiry that came in to the building department with a reoccupancy permit. I do think it will require a site plan that will come to this body, but before they get that far in the process, just understanding if there are any major concerns about specifically the drive-through component at that location.
Just so folks in the audience and folks on the commission know, this is the old Kent Bank. Then it was Sunseekers, so it's sitting vacant. I don't know if it's the same owner. I know it was purchased by a doctor at one point who considered putting in a urgent care. It doesn't seem like that's moving forward now that we're discussing coffee shop, but that's the location of the property, so. Currently sitting vacant, getting run down, I would say is the way to think about it.
Yeah, I just drove through there. It looks pretty rough.
Yeah, the blacktop's going bad. They do pay somebody to cut the grass, but not consistently, so.
Yeah, there's a big tree limb. I tried to do the same thing. There's a big
Took the
limb.
moped through there and it's,
I don't remember, I know it used to be a bank. If it had a drive-through window, it had to be on the west side of the building.
It was, there was two there, and it had the little, thing that comes down, and you,
I guess my main concern would be traffic, only because there's only, what is that, Windsor Street right there?
it is, yeah, you'd come in the same, I
What's
mean, I
the
don't know
name
what
of the
there's.
street right behind the car wash and all that?
Springstead, then Dennison.
All right, I mean, I've only
Oh,
been
you're
here
talking-
since
yeah.
'94, and I don't know what the heck the name of the street is, but there's only, you gotta go in and out on the same street.
Yep,
And that's every coffee shop that I've seen that's successful, and that's the kind of thing I think we need here, but there's always cars. Folks are trying to get there at 7 o'clock in the morning to get their coffee on the way to work, and I'm thinking, when the people are bringing their kids to school at Parsons at the exact same time, people are trying to get coffee, I got a feeling that the road might be a little congested there, you know?
yeah, maybe, I think that's probably, part of the site plan review would be a study of traffic flow as well as parking suitability and all that type of stuff, but yeah, that would be I think it kinda would be, in my opinion, it's nice that it's coming on that side street rather than on Middle Gibraltar, so that they have to hit that stop sign before turning, and they could go left and go down to Middle Gibraltar, or they could go right and go on, or North Gibraltar, excuse me, and then, or turn right and go on to Middle Gib, so. It allows them two options, but I think for that one, it'd be good to see somebody in there rather than sitting.
No, I like the idea of it, but, we actually really need to see more,
Yeah, for
how they're
sure.
gonna handle all that. But-
And no decisions today, it's just a proof of concept and just kind of for discussion, so they're not here, right?
They are
You
not
said?
here.
Yeah, so, I guess the feedback, whoever chats with them is, I think we're interested for sure. Well, I don't wanna, everybody, yeah.
do we need a vote on that or?
No
or just-
binding,
okay,
no.
nothing.
No votes or anything, yeah.
I have a question, Jane. Will drive-throughs be addressed in the zoning ordinance amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so my hope is, we'll look at the stacking spaces and evaluate it based on what needs to be evaluated, even depending on when that ordinance gets adopted and where this project falls.
So we didn't have any of that, even when there was a drive-through bank?
No.
Well, we're catching it now and we're gonna fix it. Alrighty, good discussion. Moving on to section B, so this is Captain Jim's and Humbug Marina potential shared parking. I'll give a little bit of background, some questions that came up today, and then some documents that, also kind of went around today. So if we think back a few years, originally Captain Jim's opened as the Marina and Kayak Coffee Shop. It switched then into wine and beer license and then transitioned into restaurant bar that it is currently. At that time, we made an agreement that we went through sufficient parking, we looked at the data and how much parking was needed. Then there was a variance essentially allowed for them to park at the off-site property on North Gibraltar Road at GB Gibraltar Boatyard. So that's kind of like the history of that property and how that evolved into like current status. From my understanding, and I don't have the details on ownership and kind of where it's at right now, but the request is to essentially add a potential turnover of purchase. The parking availability at North Gibraltar Road would go away, and the request or concern is, can Humbug property be utilized as the additional parking for overflow for Captain Jim's? Some of the questions, let me get this other email, that I had sent over to Jane, and I believe everybody on the planning commission got them. I broke it into 5 categories. So occupancy capacity versus parking availability, impact on residents, precedent for off-site parking, financial impact, if any, to the city, and then parking sufficiency at Humbug Marina area. So I won't go through every one of the bullets that under each category that I sent over. In addition, a little bit ago, probably 30 minutes ago, we received a document, I won't go into full detail, but from a legal firm regarding a group of Gibraltar property owners who are opposed to any further development and or approval of a waiver parking requirements in the waterfront area of the city. So no action there, but just so folks are notified that document came over, you should have that in your email inbox as well. So today we can discuss the feedback from Jane and hopefully some of the data points regarding the questions and bullets that I had sent over. And I think until we get those, it would be tough to make a decision without the necessary info.
Yes, thank you again. In terms of just some background on the shared parking facilities and what the code and ordinance outlines regarding shared parking facilities, there are a couple of different sections outlined, and some of them do seem to conflict, some of them require some interpretation, but I would just want to raise the commission's awareness to the various items that may affect this type of proposal. So although there's no increase in floor area, the off-street parking development conditions section does allow for the shared provision of parking cooperatively between businesses within 500 feet of each other, within the building, within 500 feet of the building, to develop shared parking, off-street parking.
So essentially that means is, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if the structure requesting the parking is within 500 feet of an adjacent business owned by that same owner, then they can have shared parking?
Let me just read it exactly. I don't believe that it has to have a shared owner, as long as owners are participating, but I'll
Okay,
just
yeah,
read.
I was more about the distance of the, so
The
it's just the
distance-
distance between the buildings.
And the parking facility.
Okay.
Jamie, read out the section number 2, please.
Yes, it's 44-166, and that's section 3 in that portion of the ordinance. So let me just read off exactly what the phrasing is. In the existing business districts where the city and various property owners have or may cooperatively develop parking facilities and additional parking space as required for the increased floor plan is not available within the required 300 feet, as required in the second sentence of subsection 5 of the section, the planning commission may, through negotiations with the owner of such property, vary the location of such required parking spaces or agree to the owner's participation in other authorized parking facilities which will furnish the same amount of space as required for the increased floor space and within a distance of not more than 500 feet of the building. I realize that this isn't necessarily the increase of floor space, but given that there was off-site parking provided previously during the previous approval, I guess that parking needs to shift somewhere if it's not going to continue, perhaps.
So the question is, was it precedent setting by allowing it before? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think there's actually, in the case of parking especially as it's outlined here. There's no precedent. I wouldn't be concerned with precedent here. These aren't actually variances at this point, given that it allows the city to negotiate with the property owners. So the language here is really allowing for that negotiation rather than specifically a variance or a waiver. So in that case, I think it really gives that flexibility without creating precedent. There is another portion of the section that says that nothing in this section shall be construed to prevent collective provision of off-street parking facilities for two or more buildings or uses, provided collectively such facilities shall not be less than the sum of the requirements for the various individual uses, in accordance with the table as provided later in this section. And so I do agree that there is more due diligence needed to ensure those parking counts before any further conversation really dives into what the sufficient parking is for both of those sites. But I also will just highlight one other portion of the parking section that has been referenced. And this is section 44169, subsection 15. And it says, in conjunction with multiple family or non-residential uses, two or more adjoining properties may be developed with shared parking and access facilities when improved under a single unified site plan. In such cases, the setbacks, curbing, and perimeter landscaping requirements of this section shall not apply along the common property line. This is another point for the commission to consider. There's maybe some additional language here or conflicting language depending on how you interpret that last subsection, but this seems to speak specifically to the development once a single unified site plan is proposed. So those are the pieces of the ordinance that I think should guide this consideration and this topic. I do understand, I think there's a lot of validity as well to consulting the police chief and understanding if there are any additional safety concerns or reduced access for emergency vehicles. As part of this proposal, the pedestrian pathway is proposed to be continued with including that bridge sidewalk. And so there is a provision for some of that pedestrian traffic between the two sites. And again, as the conversation continues, the development of some of that parking on the Humbug lot is of existing parking, and then some of it will be new parking. So we'll have to consider that in those calculations. How many spots will be in the area that's not currently defined as parking, and then how many of those existing spots are going to then have to kind of play double duty, and are we subtracting too much from what was approved with the Humbug site plan? I did start to try and do a little bit of background research on what was approved when Humbug was approved in 2018, and then what was approved when JP's was approved in 2019, and I just didn't quite have enough time to get far enough with that research to be able to tell you the specific parking counts. But it appears, at least when Captain Jim's was approved, the review letter didn't have anything to say about the parking counts, just some of the screening and curbing type requirements. So that's some of the research and background I wanted to provide the commission, and I'm happy to answer questions or provide further context as is available, but those are the major points I wanted to share with you all.
I have a couple questions. So the last paragraph that you read from Muni Code, it uses the word adjoining. So, and I read the last email that we got, and that word adjoining was considered important, by, one of the attorneys. So it claims that there's water in between the properties, that water belongs to the public, so they are not adjoining properties. That's one of their arguments. So, I guess that's up to the attorneys to decide, but my second question is, I do recall allowing the sign, because we had a debate that the sign technically is on city property for parking across the street, but I don't remember actually doing a variance to allow parking across the street. And so this thing kind of like brought that to my attention. It's like, all right, we allowed parking, and we never finished the job. So technically, parking is currently not allowed across the street. Just because the sign's there doesn't make it legal. So, and then I guess, you know, I got other questions. If assuming things got approved, who's responsible for that sidewalk? It's on city property, and we're leaving a bar. And it's elevated, you know, I took some pictures today, it's like a 30-degree elevation. So if I come staggering out of the bar and I fall on that particular sidewalk, I realize the city's got other sidewalks, but now we're potentially building one for the bar. So, I mean, is there any liability on the city if somebody gets hurt? Plus, does it have to be ADA compliant and other things, so.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we need like a lot more data here, I think, you know, so.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, you think of
And then there's, you
any
know,
city kind of where you walk out to go to another restaurant, you're walking on city sidewalk. So that one, I don't know if that's,
I mean, we're not like walking down
Huge
the street
concern.
from house to house, or, you know, it's
Yeah.
built specifically for that. And
yeah, I
then,
think there would, well, I mean, we can't define it today, but I think that would be a concern is like, how do you make an entrance accessible, to your point, onto the sidewalk? Because the sidewalk ends, right? And then it turns into like dirt and gravel, so I think there would have
yeah,
to.
and it's, actually, it's well worn, because people are using it already, you know, they're just stepping over the rope to get to the
Yeah,
parking
but there would
lot,
have to
but-
be like some sort of actual entrance.
I have one more.
Yeah,
The existing Humbug properties, even though they're not open for business, say the cell shop that they had and a repair shop, do they still have to keep the same amount of parking spots?
I think that's what we have to investigate, because we did approve, so if I remember correctly, there was the original Humbug approval site plan when stuff was kind of redone. Then, to your point, in 2019, we added JP's Waterfront, where the parking of JP's was somewhat absorbed into the current marina parking. And it showed in that study, and I don't have that document, I'll have to find it, that there was enough room for both. Then there was the addition of the brick building that was gonna be maybe like a canvas shop or something, if I remember correctly. We did do a drainage study on the site plan as well as a parking and parking lighting study where that was approved. And that was partially approved because of the field that's vacant next to it. And then there's also parking associated to the mechanic shop and the store. So I think to Jane's point, we just have to understand like how much of that is being used, how much isn't, and then what can be absorbed, if it can be, for additional overflow parking. We don't have enough information right now to.
Yeah, and I,
But you're correct, that's the stuff we gotta.
and I called today, nobody seems to know what the occupancy rate is for that building, so I actually went over there, you know, just before I came here. It took the girls a few minutes to find it.
Which
They
building?
claim it says
CJ's?
99.
What, Captain Jim's?
Yes,
Or- oh.
yeah. So, you know, based on Muni code, so there's 21 slips there. So I don't know what the square footage of the building is, but it's kind of like, how many more spaces do they really need? Because technically, they're violating the occupancy code if they need that many more parking spots.
So if you don't mind, can I
Yeah.
chime in on that? I did have a conversation with the building department today regarding the occupancy. And I didn't have the specific occupancy, but my general understanding and how I've experienced it in other communities is occupancy isn't dictated by parking availability. It's typically the other way around. So the occupancy would then require a certain amount of parking spaces. And as the Gibraltar Code handles it, it is square footage. And by my best estimate, which is very, very rough, the Captain Jim's is probably no more than 4,000 square feet, and it's 100, it's one space per 100 square feet. So, we're looking at least, just for the building alone, at least 40 spaces that would be required based off of the current code. And when I went by there earlier today, I think it's got about 17 spaces currently in the parking lot, so. And then I didn't even factor in the boat slips, and I, like I said, tried to start to attempt the count, figure out how much Humbug needs, but there's a lot going on over there, so.
The way it's set up, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The way it's set up right now, the pedestrian traffic crosses the road and walks through a commercial area. But with this new concept, the pedestrian traffic would be, if they stay on the north side, they'll be in that district, but if they don't, then they're close to a residential district, even though there aren't that many homes right there. That is a different way of looking at it, where there'll be additional pedestrian traffic near a residential area if we go with this plan. We don't have that now. It's all, the pedestrian traffic is routed through the commercial area.
Yeah, that's correct.
Was there a number of parking spots allowed at GBY? When it was, or if it was approved, not approved, I don't know. This was way before my time, of course, but
There wasn't, no, not, because they weren't using the facility, it's still not, well, it's still technically not in use inside the building rather than the storage in the back. So it was just considered vacant parking, and there's plenty of.
yeah, there's a ton. I didn't know if it was like, hey, we approved 25 or something. I didn't know that.
I'll have to go back through, we'll have to see if we can find that communication on those meetings. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I got a lot of phone calls today on both sides. I think two things to think about at a high level, right? Like, residents are concerned that live in the area. There's, concerns of following the ordinances and practices that are in place. But in addition, on the other side of it, folks are making large investments in the city and running substantial businesses in the community. So I think there's, two sides to every story, and we gotta use the information and data that we have supplied to us to make the best decision for the community once we get it. And I don't think we have enough information to make a decision today, in my opinion.
Yeah, because, I mean, great point, right? So say we squash the Humbug parking and then GBY pulls their parking, then they don't have enough substantial parking, then the business could potentially close, right? I mean,
Yes.
if it doesn't make sense, doesn't make dollars, then they pull funding and then we have another vacant building.
Yeah.
It's things to think about.
Yeah, you
There's
could run
always two
into
sides to this.
stuff like that, that is correct.
So it could be slippery slope either way.
Yeah. Any other discussion on, so I think our plan would be. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Ron Thomas. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for taking a minute to consider this issue. I'm one of the owners of Humbug, one of the prospective buyers of Captain Jim's. There's an issue here that I think has been not brought to surface, but that we've been dancing around, which is what was the nature of the allowance of using Gibraltar Boatyard initially for overflow parking? And what is that agreement? Because it's my understanding that that's already been revoked. In other words, the GBY said Captain Jim's as of, X date, which is somewhere around today, they're no longer allowed to use that. So where does that leave Captain Jim's? Is kind of the biggest question in my mind, because are they allowed to stay in operation at all? Was it approved contingent on parking being provided? Can that parking even be revoked? Because I can imagine a situation in which a shared parking agreement is entered into, and then the party granting that can then just turn around and revoke it and shut the other business down. So that is an issue I think needs to be considered here. All we're trying to do is solve that situation, and I understand the parking calculation requirements and everything else we're discussing, and I have some thoughts on those point by point. But as an initial matter, are we even clear that the GBY could revoke the parking? Might that just be a permanent thing that has to be allowed by the virtue of how it was originally approved, I would think?
That I don't know. I don't have any documentation on whether or not that was revoked, or any legal documents between JP or GBY ownership.
Yeah, but,
We don't have an agreement between those two.
so on what basis was Captain Jim's allowed to open as a restaurant bar to begin with then?
Yeah, they came, we have to go back and look at our notes.
Okay,
Before
I think
give you-
that would be
Before I
useful
give you
information.
a full answer, we're gonna have to go back and look at the,
Okay, and I would like to, be in the know on that too, just because it impacts what we're trying to accomplish here. But as for the other points that were raised, and I'll just go through this kind of briefly. As to, ADA compliance on sidewalks, I don't think that would be a requirement, but for what it's worth, part of our proposal was to add more ADA spaces to the Captain Jim's lot so that more people can park there easily in the event there's a step or something that leads to the pedestrian pathway. While none of the pedestrians would actually pass through a residential area, they would be across the street from, still in the commercial marine district, going between sites. But there's only 2 houses that are even close, and they're across the street, and neither of them actually face where the pedestrian traffic is. We're also not proposing building anything new, changing any development, changing any use groups, nothing like that. So there would be no additional patrons by virtue of putting this agreement together. Financial consideration for city costs was an issue that was raised. We're not proposing anything that would, we expect the city to pay for or would change anything of the existing. We're just using our own property to facilitate what would be something that we would provide extra parking for. And I think that generally wraps up the things that came to mind in listening to you guys. But I will just say, all we're trying to do is solve a problem. I think it's already a problem with GBY revoking parking. I think that Humbug is the most obvious solution. It's closer than GBY is to Captain Jim's. They also, pedestrians don't have to cross a street after leaving a bar. Hopefully they have a DD with them anyway, but in any case, they wouldn't have to do that if we do this. They would stay on the pedestrian pathway. And we're really here to solve what we think is the problem. So while I'm here, if any of you guys have any questions about our specific thoughts, I'm happy to answer them, but I just wanted to bring these matters to the board.
is there thoughts on if you had the parking allocated that you would redo? I noticed in the picture you would use, like, that empty lot is circled as potential.
I think we'd have to certainly clean it up, mark it, and probably illuminate it. That would be my thought. There is a building, I think it's 13300 Middle Gibraltar in the city system, but it's a blue building that you pass on the left if you're driving into JP's. When we bought the property a year ago, there was a quasi-legal, if not illegal, residential unit in there and some other junk going on. We're abandoning that, getting rid of it, and that building is only gonna be used for storing marina equipment now. So if anything, it would be a change in the use to the negative on, positive for this conversation on parking, which is make more parking available, basically.
So you would add obviously, so if you add parking and you have to add illumination and things like that, that would have to go probably through site plan review, and then you would add like lines and all the stuff, right?
Yeah. All I'm saying is that building is gonna, in the future, as far as I anticipate anyway, only gonna be used for storing of marina equipment.
Yeah.
So it would be light use, light parking
So there won't
requirement.
be the 2 cars parked at the corner anymore then.
Exactly, yeah. And there was a canvas shop in there previously and some other things. That stuff won't be in there anymore either.
Okay. Any questions for Ron? Thank you for sharing.
Okay, thank you.
So I think the next ask in that new business discussion would be follow-up with Jane, and we'll do some background information on the previous discussions. To Ron's point, I think we need to investigate the current situation and parking capability that exists between GBY extra lot and the current Captain Jim's, because I agree, if there is no additional parking and you can't park on the side street that's right there, then they may be in a bind. So we probably need to investigate that as well. So that would be, someone's gonna have to get in touch with the 2 owners. And then maybe we come back if we can get the information in October's meeting. Any concerns from the team? Good? Okay.
Yeah, hopefully just clear up with some.
Yeah, we gotta get some more information, and I think we owe it to folks to get the data, for sure. Okay, we have no postponed or referred items. Commissioner forum, Want to welcome Brandon Dix to the Planning Commission. Welcome to the team. Appreciate you diving into to support the community. Anything else for Commissioner Forum? Be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Like the motion.
Moved and supported. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Good evening, commission members. I want to welcome everybody to the Downtown Development Authority meeting. And since we've already done Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to turn over to Clerk Tomasic to please call roll.
Schumake,
Here.
Baker.
Here.
Bilk, Cox,
Here.
Verzone, Hutchinson.
Here.
Olson,
Here.
Hyatt. Here. Upholzer, Dix.
Do we have a motion to excuse absent members?
Motion to
Support.
excuse absent members.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. This time, we'd love to welcome the floor for any public comment this evening. Are there any members of public that wish to address the DDA? Commission members in front of you and members of public in front of you as well is our proposed agenda for this evening. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as public noticed?
Motion to approve.
Do we have support?
Support.
Any discussion on this agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next on our agenda is approval of previous meeting minutes. Commission members, in your packet, you will find item A, which is the DDA minutes of 8/19/25. Do we have a motion to approve meeting minutes of 8/19/2025?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Support.
Any discussion on those meeting minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? At this time, I would like to call your attention to acknowledgement of correspondence and ask our amazing finance director to please join me here at the podium. As we open up this discussion, commission members, you have item A, which is full year 2025-2026 DDA budget as of 9/10/2025. I just want to reinforce our gratitude for Finance Director McEwen and making sure we get this update and all the background to commission members. So floor is yours.
Okay, I just wanted to draw your attention to the budget, which is included in there. I'm expecting the fund balance to actually grow by quite a bit. I'll know complete figure once the audit is completed, which will be next month. I also listed the items for the bond, and I feel like we're gonna have some leftover funds. So as a precaution, my next item is going to be to adopt a resolution to go out and re-advertise for some items that if we don't use up what's left of these funds, we have these other items as a fallback to use it for as well.
Is that based on the 9 items that we had before, so we're gonna add if
Yes,
essentially?
yes,
To the 9? Okay.
yes. And there was some items that kind of didn't make the cut, such as a generator for the community center. I've heard people talk about this so much, and that wasn't something that was originally advertised for, and that's something that seems to be something the community really would like to see.
What's your forecasted dollar amount of variance, like left over, I guess? Like, what do you think where that's gonna land?
I would say probably about 140.
Nice.
That leaves, generators don't cost that much, so okay. Cool.
So, I mean, is there any questions on?
What drove the underspend on the bond?
When we went out for it, they came up with a different amount, and then it kind of got pushed that, you know, we would end up spending it anyway. And I have learned my lesson. I will never let that happen again. This is my first bond, so
It's actually good. It means we can do other stuff. So to me, it's a win. It's not bad. It's just what drove it. I didn't know if there was like efficiencies and.
There was a lot of efficiency when we did that water main line. So we came in under on that,
That's good.
so.
That's cool. So it's 140K essentially for everybody that we can use for something else for the city.
But the only issue is that anything that we use DDA bond funds for, we have to advertise out for.
Yeah.
And then, so it has to go through you guys, then it has to go through council, then it has to be published for 45 days, and then the funds are free. Well, not free, but freed up.
we will have the freed up funds. It just takes a really long time.
Is there a deadline on spending that? Is that the May 31st, 26?
My goal is for it to all be spent by May 31st, 2026. That gives me an additional 30 days leeway.
Gotcha, because after we need 45 days, we're cutting tight there. So,
Yes.
Okay.
That's why
I remember that date we've talked about this a few times, so I remember the date.
that's why you guys saw me last meeting and you're seeing me again.
All right.
So next month, we might have those items to. Well, we have some,
Probably not until November.
okay,
Because it's gonna go to the September 22nd meeting, and then it's gonna be the 45 days. So that's gonna fall outside of the next DDA meeting, so it probably won't be until November.
okay, that's cool.
So you won't see me next month.
Goodness, well, you can come and hang out with us if you want.
Yeah, I just want to reinforce gratitude for Finance Director McEwen. Couple side notes that are very relevant to the discussion you all just had. To Finance Director McEwen's point, the unlock of those additional funds is a fantastic win. And the nice part is it's on the backdrop of what was a pretty exhaustive prioritization of need. So you all as commission members, council, infrastructure advisory committee have taken a very critical inventory of where our highest priority needs lie. And the nice part is when we have these unlock of additional funds, we just start dipping lower into that priority list. Second thing that I think is fantastic is, and I see Mr. McNabb in the back there, Councilman McNabb was amongst many parties who I'd say found financial efficiencies in existing projects. For example, based on a lot of the work that was done on the roofs, we were able to realize savings of approximately 40K, if I recall correctly, which is a fantastic win. So not only have we drove spend against key projects, HVAC, parking lot resurfacing, new roofs, bridge projects, city hall and community center activities, DPW facility, backup power consider, all of these different items that are in your packet, we've also realized savings against those spends. So I'm excited about it, and obviously the next item beyond this agenda topic, we'll talk about some of the additional areas we want to include in the bond language to get to work on. Anything else you want to add?
I was hanging on for the next item, so hopefully.
Fantastic. So, commission members, if there's no further questions for Finance Director McEwen or I would love a motion to receive and file item A, full year 25-26 DDA budget as of 9/10/25.
Motion to receive and file DDA budget.
Do we have support?
Support.
Any discussion further on this matter? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you again. For unfinished business, we do not have any, so I would love to then turn the floor back over for item A, which is the resolution approving additional projects to be paid with 2023 downtown development bonds. Finance Director McEwen, floor is yours.
So I would need a motion for the resolution approving additional projects to be paid with the 2023 downtown development bonds. I've been working really close with Johnson. We've also worked a lot with Rick Cox regarding different items. And one of the things that I've heard the most about is a community center generator, which I think we'll be able to fund with what's left over. So that would be one of the items. Furniture for City Hall, that's kind of an extra thing for City Hall and community centers. Windows for the community center, as well as flooring for City Hall. I'm sure you guys have all noticed, actually it's been fixed, but the flooring here is pretty dated. There was a lot of things that people were tripping over.
Remind me, what are the rules for what that bond can be used for?
It can only be used for items that are advertised, and it has to be within the DDA thing, and it has to add value to the item.
So it has to provide improvements to city assets.
Yes. Yeah. So I think like I know I keep saying this, but I think one of my main points and the biggest ones that I want to focus on is the community center generator, because that wasn't on the original one, and I feel like that really should have been, as well as the DPW generator.
Yeah, that should only be not, if there's 140 coming back, that's like a subset, so. Okay. So you're looking for
A motion to adopt the resolution approving additional projects to be paid with 2023 Downtown Development Funds Limited tax general obligation. Did I say that right, Katie?
do we have the opportunity to add additional items after we make a motion, or is it only the items that are listed currently?
It is only the items that are listed currently, because this has to go to the council meeting, then it has to go out for advertisement.
That is the particular part of it. It has to be a detail oriented.
Yeah,
specific sheet to projects.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like, that's probably like a 30 or 40 kV generator, so I don't know, let's say on the top end, that's 40 grand. And then furniture and carpet, so that leaves 100,000. Are we gonna spend the full?
We still have to get quotes on our fencing, and I was including the DPW generator in there too,
that's in
so,
there too?
yeah, out of that 140.
That building?
Yes,
And windows, right? You said
yes,
windows
and
also.
windows are also on there in case we want to make sure
They're
that our
expensive.
community centers are better insulated.
Got it.
So it's kind of gonna be more along the lines of, once we advertise, we're gonna try and determine what would be top priority and go from
So there's no
what we
things on
can
the
do.
list that we could spend that 140.
Yeah, if it's not on the list,
For sure.
there are a lot of
forgot about
people
the
who will
wind.
testify that I have been kind of mean and nasty about that, but if it's not on the list, you cannot spend it.
I think the windows I forgot about the windows. I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution approving additional projects to be paid with the 2023 downtown development bond.
Support.
Thank you.
We have a motion, we have support. Any further discussion on this matter? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you so much, Finance Director McEwen. What a great segue to item B. Speaking of getting to work, one of the items that we are looking to put in front of our commission members, as captured in your packet, is awarding the bid for City Hall complex exterior painting. Commission members, I won't be redundant with all the details in your packet. At a high level, the work has been competitively bidded, and the low bid was $12,000 from JLR Group. As you can see, there's some history, purpose, and explanation of the background here. Long story short, like some other items that we've discussed in context of the previous discussion, there was some deficiency and updates required, this being one of them. Over 20 years old and showing signs of age from power washing over the many years it's been in existence. So in this case, we'd be looking for a motion to approve the DDA funds in the amount of $12,000 for the JLR Group.
Our budget's currently sitting at, I'm just reminding you guys, 82,292. So that drops at 12 grand, and then the next discussion's a facade grant, which would come out. I think the potential there is for like 5, so if you approve both, then we're down to like 65,292. Just so everybody knows where we're at. That is for this building, the lighthouse thing in the front, back rolled. I was looking at some of the details. It's basically power wash it, back roll it, caulk seal the edges so that we don't have leaks, stuff like that. It's probably.
Precisely, and just like any work that'd be put in front of you, not only with the bid process, but rest assured, we have our infrastructure advisory committee, we have John Sant in his capacity, a lot of expert eyes on all of this activity, including Councilman Cox and liaison for this commission, so exhaustively explored and put in front of you with all the information in the back.
Yeah, some of the quotes are.
Ridiculous.
I'll make that motion.
$1,000.
So again, we'd be looking for the motion to award the bid for City Hall complex exterior painting to JLR Group in the amount of $12,000.
Made the motion.
Motion by Baker, is there a second?
Support.
Any further discussion on this matter?
When does that budget go through? I guess, sorry. When does that budget go through?
You wanna
There's
speak to the
60,000,
budgetary
65,000.
considerations?
After we approve this one, and then the 5,000, when does that go through?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, that's actually the budget that I expect to go up a little bit because I'm expecting your fund balance to grow. So once I get the total figure for that,
So
that
it'll
will be
offset.
updated,
Okay,
yeah.
I was just curious.
Okay.
Yeah, just in the earlier discussion.
July.
A lot of numbers going on.
In the earlier discussion, yeah, I appreciate that. In the earlier discussion sheet, kind of forecasted fund balance for DDA should grow by at least $150,000. So
Okay.
Oh, I didn't hear that part, the additional.
It was in the
150.
text, and
we were looking at it exhaustively on how do we maintain those balances and get them high as possible. And so that was an earlier commentary in context of the broader landscape budget-wise.
okay.
Alright.
Yep.
Okay, so any further discussion on this matter?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Commission members, next item, Jane, I'll turn it over to you, I know, because you are truly our expert here sitting up on the chambers. For a little bit of historical context, I had a individual reach out related to the car wash. And it was an exciting email to receive because in the interest of our broader discussions around downtown development, with tonight's agenda, including a potential coffee shop opportunity and filling a building that's been vacant for too long. Any way we can improve not only the business landscape, but ultimately the aesthetic landscape of our downtown area, to me, is a great win for the community. And so, Jane, perhaps you could take us through a little bit of the background here and some of the research you've done. Just for context, after we get commission input on this matter, in context of Jane's expertise, I have the contact of the individual, the oversight leadership there, and want to make sure that we can close the loop with them on next steps for this project. So, Jane, floor is yours.
Thank you. The request at hand is to see if the DDA would entertain a grant program for business improvements. In this case specifically, would be a mural on the Gibraltar Car Wash wall that would be facing the Gibraltar Grill. I understand, at least from an email from the finance director, that there is money allocated for a facade improvement program. I'm not sure of the total amount for that. I did include in my information what I think is one of the better outlined guides in terms of facade improvement programs, not suggesting that we need anything that in-depth for Gibraltar, but it has some good items to consider. Specifically, as we look at public art, they suggest a $5,000 allotment, and the process would allow for there to be the proposal with the art kind of concept to come to the DDA. The DDA would then approve it once that concept has been formally formalized, and I do think that we would need to create some sort of application. But with your blessing, I'm happy to work on that application and get that available to the business owner. I do think this is a really great opportunity. Truly, what downtown development authorities are designed to do is to support those local businesses, raise the aesthetics of the general area. I mean, that would be just a really great thing to see as you're driving down the street, or you're, going to the restaurant next door, or even driving through the car wash. So I'm happy to answer any questions about what you would want to see on that application, what the process would look like. I think maybe entertaining the nautical theme requirement in that public art process would be appropriate, given the signage requirements and kind of the theme of the DDA aesthetics. But I'm really open to your ideas and discussion, and then I'm happy to shape an application based off of that.
Do we get to see an idea of what it's going to be, before they start?
That would be my suggestion, is to have some sort of concept come to you as part of that application.
You would need a motion for $5,000?
I think you would motion for the, to approve the application when it's received. I do think that figuring out how much you want to allocate per grant is a good idea, and I gave $5,000 as one benchmark.
Thank you.
Maybe one logical place to start. Are there any objections to this concept from any commission members in exploring this further?
No, I think it's a good idea.
Fantastic.
Didn't this board used to have a DDA or a facade grant that was listed within the budget that went to,
Yeah, we
if
listed.
businesses requested
We
that grant?
approved a facade grant at Jim's Galley, Captain Jim's. Those are the only two that I can remember.
But at that point, this board had budgeted funds to be able
It
to
was listed.
facilitate
as a-
that?
It was
think we
listed
did
as a line
too.
item, yes.
Do a year,
Still
I think
listed,
that's
there's
what-
just no amount.
Still listed, you just need to define amount and a process.
Right, I can see it listed in the budget, but there's no dollar amount
Yeah.
associated to it.
Okay, so there's no objections to the concept. We can not reinvent the wheel and leverage the work of other communities as highlighted. So maybe a next discussion point is dollar amount. Obviously, our city planners recommended 5,000 as a starting point. I would say it's probably hard to make a fully informed decision without just referencing historical data and best practice like Jane has, and obviously this commission can intervene on the detailed authorizations, but anybody have any perspective on dollar
I don't know
amounts?
how much
or-
it costs. I mean, it might be a good idea before we approve a dollar amount. So like Trenton just did this, right? If you drive down Jefferson, it looks great. I think they look good. But they're like behind the ice cream place, there's like 5 buildings that took part in it, Promenade, the ice cream place, there's a bunch of them. It does look nice. I don't know how they allocated the funds or how much they did use local artists, I know that, because they were doing it during one of their outdoor events. They were actually like painting them during it, which was
And they've
cool.
also done the bridge abutments, you know.
They did
with
the bridge
railroad.
abutment, so I don't know if that came from the DDA or whatever, but I think we should probably ask them like, hey, what's it cost to do the size of X building? Cause we know how big the car wash is, right? Like, I'll paint it for $5,000. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. But we should get the data to understand. Come on, I knew you guys would like that.
Is the amount for 5,000 the material, or is that to pay the artist, or do we have artists that wanna donate their time?
That's the question, that's what I was getting to.
Well said.
Outside of my joke. But it's all of it, I think it covers everything. But some people don't, I think the artists in Trenton donated their time, if I understand correctly.
And I think it was an important point for our community, which is we know we have some renowned artists that would probably love the opportunity to be considered for a project like this, so.
Very good ones, yeah.
I think that's something we could really look to kind of weave in and incorporate, perhaps a resident level or local prioritization of artistry.
So is the motion to approve the application and then we can come back and talk about dollar amount, or does that have to be listed in the motion?
My only material thought process is we have somebody who's interested in exploring this immediately, so some level of guidance on that would help shape the conversation further, but if the guidance is we don't know and we need more information, then we can take that as an action item.
And if I may, go ahead.
Any chance like the high school has an art class that they'd be interested in, and let students do it, instead of someone who, you know, let the students be proud of it? That's 2026 already coming up.
So if I may,
Please.
in my experience, there's a couple of different ways this gets formatted. So the way that I kind of have outlined it here and the way that the inquiry came in around the grant typically allocates, you know, it's private property and the owner can do with it what they want and however they want to incorporate and develop that mural. So usually it is a hired artist and they're hired for their design and then actual implementation of the painting and all the materials that come with that. And I think $5,000 in my experience is adequate. It's not excessive. It's surprising how much the materials themselves end up costing. The other way that the program could potentially be structured, and maybe this is for a later date, just given that we have some active interest in a grant, and there is this facade improvement that's at least has a line item associated with it, is a public-private partnership. At that point, then you do get a little bit more involvement in terms of, creating a community opportunity, whether it's the high school students, whether it's a paint by numbers type situation where you have the community come out, and then you're drafting that agreement with the property owners that the city is in control of the design, the maintenance, the overall facilities, and then figuring out how the city wants to spend those funds, whether it's donated time from an artist and designing that, and then you have a little bit more of an active role. So that, not to say that that's not a possibility, I just think there's 2 routes to consider.
Well, what a great decision point to maybe discuss, which is, does the commission members have any appetite towards one pathway or another when it comes to the overview you just mentioned? I think the simple way to think about it is, do we have say in it or do we give away say in it?
But that process would be for all projects, not just this particular.
Right.
Well, and there's nothing to say that you don't create a opportunity within the facade improvement for funding murals and then say, we want to do a public mural project and now we're going to go out and develop this public mural project and find partners for locations, like, I think more similar probably to what Trenton did, right?
I think dealing with and this is just a thought, implementing some funds into the facade grant, which opens up opportunities for business owners in the DDA, and the mural can fall under that guise, which gives us a bigger blanket to be able to offer to the community.
I tend to agree with that mindset.
So it's something to consider.
Yeah, I mean, right now, there's no line item to approve any money. It's a non-existent fund.
So let's recap.
I don't know how that can be, because we were doing, I think, 2 facade grants a year in the past, And if
Yeah.
I remember correctly, the max was 15,000 for each one.
You're correct. There was a 7,500 for something and a 15,000 max. It was half or up to 15. And we granted I wanna say we granted both 15,000. We'd have to go back for those two businesses, but, so I guess, Rick, to your point, can we make a motion to adjust?
Amy has
Or-
something to say.
No, here she comes. She's coming to answer my question before I ask.
It looks like in the past, we had about $30,000.
Yeah. So we would allocate two, I think, to Bill's
What
point.
was it? Was it 15?
30,000 total.
Yeah,
Could
okay.
do two of
But
them,
we
yeah.
could, the DDA could divvy up however they wanted it.
What would be the process to shift money into that line item? Just ask. We're gonna have to move your seat.
I would just have to add it as like a little line item. I could do the same thing that I did the one time where I had a budget where everything was in red, that we hadn't spent yet,
Yeah.
to just show you guys a better picture.
But you think we're gonna be in the better for up to 150K to the current budget of 82, so,
I think you're fine.
yeah.
I would just want to probably have a motion to authorize the transfer. She can recode the
what I
financials.
was-
The motion could then obviously, with that transfer, authorize Jane to get to work on the applications. My recommendation is, at least as a launch pad for this, considering some level of city intervention, commission intervention in the projects. So for example, if I had that green light from you all, I could go back to this business owner and say, yes, there is a grant system in place. Yes, they're welcoming your application, and they could be on the next agenda if you saw fit.
I'd make a motion to shift DDA funds into the line item of facade grants in the amount of $30,000. Use of the facade grant upon approval of planning commission, or DDA, sorry.
Jane, does that give you language to
Yeah.
play with? Clerk Tomasic, do you have that language?
I got the first half. Can you help me on the second half?
Can you recite that for us?
Shift the DDA.
Shift the DDA funds of 30K into the line item supporting the facade grant. Use of the facade grant requires approval of the DDA commission.
So that still gives us a little bit of say-so on,
I think that's smart.
because if we
Yeah.
give them 10 grand, they paint a stick figure and say it's
Yeah.
$10,000.
Well, you could break it into 6 murals, right? Or however you
Yeah.
want to do it.
Gives you flexibility.
On the 15,000 on the two, is there itemized breakdown, maybe 5,000 materials and 10,000 for the artist, or is there a way we could figure that out?
They
Or-
sent that back. That was actually like building. That wasn't pictures. That was like when they did actual work. They asked for, basically, if I remember correctly for Captain Jim's, they brought in an actual spend of improvements to the building in the tune of like $800,000 or something. And then they asked for a facade grant of $15,000 based on the spend that they did, and we approved it.
And I would include in the application for the murals, similarly, along with the renderings of the concept, the contractor estimates for the paint, labor, so that will all be considered as part of the approval process.
Fantastic. We have a motion. We have support. Clerk Tomasic, you have that motion accurately captured?
Yes.
Any further discussion on this matter? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Very exciting. Thank you. Jane, look forward to hearing from you on the application front. I'll reach out to the business owner that had contacted us and make sure that all of that comes back to the planning commission and DDA. With that being said, there are no further items in our new business, so that takes us to our DDA director's report. Councilman Cox and council and I have been hard at work in, finding our next city administrator. As I mentioned to you last time, we have a short list pool through the extensive process of 7 candidates that were interviewed. We completed those interviews, and we're looking to progress to identify the final candidate out of that pool with council. I don't know if I'm speaking for everybody when I say that I'm incredibly pleased with the finalists in our candidate pool through this process. I feel like we have strong talent and somebody who will make a great next city administrator for the city of Gibraltar. So look forward to keeping this commission apprised, obviously, as we look to fill the seat next to Chair Hutchinson for future meetings. I'd also like to welcome Brandon. Welcome to the commission, and thank you for your service to the city of Gibraltar. With that, is there any other matters that would like to be raised in DDA Director's report? We don't have any tabled and referred items, so with that, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have support? Clerk to, all in favor? Any opposed? That's it for this evening. Thank you so much. Meeting adjourned.